Good evening. We were supposed to be doing this yesterday, but some things came up, but that's okay. We are here now and ready to bring you guys my Week 10 power rankings that I've, already posted on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. And after that, we're going to talk about what to kind of expect from tonight's game between the Indianapolis Colts and the Tennessee Titans. So, are you ready to get your fix? Well, let's get started with my Week 10 power rankings that changed a little bit from last week. We're going to do the same as we did last week, start with 32 and then work our way to the number one team with more insight a little bit on the top 10 teams and my reasoning behind putting them where I did. So to get started, I still got the New York Jets at 32 because they are still winless at 0-9, and I don't see them doing much more this week. At 31, I still got the Jacksonville Jaguars, who are struggling offensively with Gardner Minshew out with a right thumb injury, and their defense. Okay, they just can't stop teams from moving the ball downfield. At 30, I got the Dallas Cowboys, who I dropped 4 spots from Week 9, and who, at least in my eyes, are the worst team in the NFC. And their star receiver, Amari Cooper, just isn't looking like himself. The past 2 games, he's been targeted 11 times, only caught 6 of them for a total of 72 yards. Now, this is a bad Cowboys team, and I believe that problem has to do with coaching more than anything. At 29, I got the Washington football team, who I moved up 1 spot, and they're nothing special, okay, but have a really nice defensive line and a good weapon at wide receiver, but they just have a hard time winning games. Now, at 28, I got the Denver Broncos. Again, nothing special about this team. Without Von Miller, they just can't hold a lead. At 27, I still got the New York Giants, who still haven't lost by more than 10 points the entire year besides Week 3 against the 49ers. At 26, I got the New England Patriots, who I moved down 1 spot because they barely beat the Jets, and with the offensive revolving around Cam Newton, I just don't see this team as dangerous besides their offensive line. At 25, I got the Houston Texans, who I moved up 4 spots due to how they've been playing the past couple weeks. And the main reason for their play is obviously Deshaun Watson. Okay, at 24, I still got the Philadelphia Eagles, who really haven't improved, okay, from where they were last week and haven't gotten any worse in their performance. At 23, I got the San Francisco 49ers, who I moved down 5 spots just because they're a completely different team with pretty much their entire starting lineup being out with injuries, and I don't see them winning that many more games. At 22, I got the Detroit Lions, who I moved up 3 spots because after playing the Minnesota Vikings, it was apparent that they have a receiving problem, and their defense can't stop the run, and their secondary could play a lot better. At 21, I got the Cincinnati Bengals, who I moved up 2 spots simply because Joe Burrow is playing on another level and beat the Tennessee Titans 2 weeks ago to give them their second loss. So at 20, I got the Los Angeles Chargers, who I moved up 2 spots as well because they played a really good game against the Raiders that they should have won, okay, but couldn't get the job done. They're pretty much in really good hands with Justin Herbert at this point in the season. At 19, I got the Carolina Panthers, okay, who I moved down 2 spots just because their offense is really stagnant, and their defense hasn't gotten any better the past couple weeks, and they let the Chiefs come back to beat them. At 18, I got the Minnesota Vikings, who I moved up 2 spots due to their last 2 performances and have arguably the best running back in the NFL, Dalvin Cook, who the past 2 games has rushed for 396 yards total and 5 rushing touchdowns and 1 receiving touchdown. At 17, I got the Atlanta Falcons, who I moved up 4 spots because they're 3-1 in the last 4 games and are really starting to get on a roll. At 16, I got the Chicago Bears, who I moved down 2 spots because they have a real offensive problem with no real starting quarterback, and they've kind of figured out that running game and who their starting running back actually is. But at 15, I got the Indianapolis Colts, who I moved up 1 spot just because they're playing some really solid football with a couple things to figure out. But I thought they played really decent against a really good defense in the Baltimore Ravens. At 14, I got the Las Vegas Raiders, who I moved up 1 spot simply because they are a really good team when they actually want to be. And once they get rolling, they're hard to stop. And they have won their last 2 games against some solid defenses. At 13, I still got the Los Angeles Rams, who really haven't improved or gotten worse. They're just a pretty average team, okay, who can be really good or really bad, but still have one of the top defenses in the NFL. At 12, I still got the Tennessee Titans just because after losing back-to-back weeks to the Steelers and then to the Bengals, they played an all right team in the Bears and snuck away with a 24-17 victory, but they really haven't, proved to me that they deserve to move any higher. At 11, I got the Cleveland Browns, who I moved down 2 spots, mainly because I think there are a couple teams that are just better than them. Okay, it's not because they've gotten worse because they were on a bye week the past week, a couple weeks, but they've played some exceptional football. At 10, I got the Buffalo Bills, who I moved up one spot due to their phenomenal performance against the Seattle Seahawks, who have a hard time stopping the air attack. And Josh Allen went off going 31 for 38, 415 passing yards, 3 touchdowns. At 9, I got the Miami Dolphins, who I moved up one spot because this is a really good team defensively. And after his second start, Tua might just be the real deal and take this team right in the right direction and have a legit chance to fight for the division and a chance at the playoffs. At 8, I still got the Arizona Cardinals because I don't see them better than any of the teams ahead of them, but they're a really solid team that fights really till the very last second. Playing against the Cardinals, you better give 100% until the last whistle because Kyler Murray and DeAndre Hopkins will make you pay. At 7, I still got the Green Bay Packers who got manhandled by the Vikings 2 weeks ago and then destroyed the 49ers last week, but still have a couple issues defensively, and the teams ahead of them I feel could run all over them. At 6, I got the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who I moved down 2 spots because they had to play the Saints to see who the leader in the division would be, and Tampa looked awful and had no game plan on how to stop the Saints, let alone score themselves. At 5, I got the Seattle Seahawks, who I moved down 2 spots as well because they have the worst defense against the pass, and teams like the Saints, Steelers, and Chiefs will just pick them apart, where I don't think the Seahawks will be able to, really win, especially after having Josh Allen put on a passing clinic. At 4, I got the New Orleans Saints, who I moved up 2 spots due to their performance against the Buccaneers. They got Michael Thomas back, and I think with him back, that Emmanuel Sanders is going to excel, and it also gives Alvin Kamara a little break, which could be a good thing down the road. At 3, I got the Baltimore Ravens, so I moved up 2 spots, mainly because they've proven that they have a top defense in the NFL, and regardless of what they run on offense, it's still hard to stop Lamar Jackson. Plain and simple. Now at 2, I still got Pittsburgh Steelers. Okay, if you remember, I said last week, obviously they have the number 1 defense at this point in the NFL, but their offense needs some work because they just have a hard time moving the ball downfield, and that's exactly what we've seen this past week when they played against the Cowboys, where they only scored in the second and fourth quarter against a pretty rough defense. I told you their offense just scares me. I don't think they have enough to get it done, but that defense helps them out tremendously. I just don't think that offense could beat the Kansas City Chiefs and their explosive offense. Okay, that brings me to my number 1 team going into Week 10, the Kansas City Chiefs. Now, look, regardless of the way they have played against somewhat good teams, they're still the hardest team to beat. Patrick Mahomes is putting together another MVP-type season for his 3rd year in a row with 25 touchdowns and only 1 interception. This team is scary good and hard to beat once they get going. So that's going to be my Week 10 power rankings. And now it's time to talk about tonight's matchup between the Indianapolis Colts and the Tennessee Titans. Now, this isn't just a normal game. No, this game is just like the Saints and Bucs game. It's for the division. The Titans are currently first place in the AFC South at 6-2, where the Colts are sitting at second place at 5-3. This is the first time these teams will have played against each other this season, which means if the Colts win, they're going to take that number 1 spot in the division. But if the Titans win, they pretty much solidify that number 1 spot for the rest of the season unless they take a dive and lose a lot of games. Now, I expect this game to be just like last week's set of games, with it being a 1-possession game where one of these teams will have a chance to win it on the last drive. I also think that Derrick Henry is going to rush for at least 100 yards because he didn't do that well on the ground last week against the Bears with only 68 yards and 21 attempts. Okay, I am really unsure how this game is actually going to be played out, just because I feel like these teams are really evenly matched. Okay, I got the Titans at 12 and the Colts at 15 in my power rankings, so you can understand why I say they're evenly matched. So for tonight, I'd expect a really good game that's going to most likely be low scoring and come down to the last few seconds to decide who takes that number 1 spot in the AFC South. Well, that's going to end our discussion today as Week 10 is upon us, starting with a division battle and then going into the weekend with some really good matchups like the Seahawks versus Rams, Eagles versus Giants, Bucks versus Panthers, Bills versus Cardinals, and a couple more. Okay, this should be a good weekend of football with more close games taking place and, more identities of teams coming out. So anyways, thanks for stopping by. We'll see you tomorrow, and you just got your fix with the Wicks.